Welcome back to the Postpartum Plan podcast. This podcast is designed to support and empower you through postpartum. Whether you're expecting, in the early postpartum days, or beyond, this space is for you. I'm your host, Madison Fugere, a dedicated postpartum doula and pediatric sleep consultant, striving to help parents feel confident and supported in their parenting journey. Each week, I'm sharing practical tips and expert advice to help you navigate all the postpartum things with confidence. Well, as much confidence as you can. Let's embark on this journey together, making your parenthood as serene and supportive as possible. Adwapa is a Ghanaian-born and music lover. She's a mother to Freema, a wife to Kojo, daughter to Sylvia, and friend to many. Prior to becoming a doula, she was a project manager and finance professional with an extensive background in varied roles within the nonprofit and public sector. In 2020, after birthing her daughter, she realized that what would have mattered the most was having been educated and had continuous support from pregnancy through postpartum. She trained as a birth doula and started a boutique perinatal service, Doo Care, based out of Worcester, Massachusetts. She is extremely passionate about supporting families and creating an empowered, fun, and memorable birthing experience for all, no matter the outcome. She's a firm believer in the wonder and power of our bodies from birth and nurturing this life that we bring into the world. At the same time, she understands that birth is a deeply personal and unique experience for each person, and everyone approaches birth with their own needs, abilities, stories, and hopes. Her goal is to develop a personal relationship with her families, learn their story, and support them without pressure or judgment. This shapes the care that she is willingly giving to all of her individual clients, and she supports them to their specific and cultural sensitive and relevant. I can't talk today. Let's try that part again. This shapes the care that she is willing to give and allows her to provide individualized care that is specific to and culturally sensitive to and relating to, their personal preferences during their specific birth. I can't talk today. Hi, Adwapa. I'm so excited.
It is perfectly okay. It's a lot of words.
It is, and I was so excited, and there's so much to say, too, about you that I'm like, oh my goodness, so excited, and I even read it over out loud and everything before popping on here to, practice all my words, but this is what happens when I get up early and have a client early this morning, and my words are just, stumbled. Granted, I feel like I say that on every episode when I read people's intros, but I feel like the pressure is just on, and I'm like, I have to get all these words right, and then it's just... it never ends up well, but hey, we got all the information. You're an amazing human is the gist of it all. And I'm excited because we're going to be recording a couple episodes, but today we're just going to talk about your birth and postpartum story and what it was like to become a mama and the experience of what it was like having a little one in the NICU and all of that. So I'm excited to dive in. If you want to just go for it, let us know about you, tell us about life, and then we can dive right into pregnancy if you want.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. But my journey to becoming a parent was kind of I don't know, I feel like it was rare, but now I feel like it's everyone's story. But I got pregnant very quickly after we got married. So I got married in 2018. And then my dad wasn't too well. So he was living between Ghana and the UK. So I was back and forth between Ghana, UK, and the US, because that's where my husband was at that time. So we got married 2018. And then in 2019, early 2019, I found out that I was pregnant. Totally wasn't expecting it because we were not trying, obviously. Obviously, because I was not living in a particular country then. Found out I got pregnant and really excited about it. I had a lot of friends who had babies before. And I also had been with them when they were having a baby. So I was like, okay, I got this. I kind of know what to expect. Everyone does this. And then I had a loss at 21 weeks. And I was in Ghana. My husband and I were in Ghana for the second trimester. We're like, oh, let's enjoy life before, family of 3 and our world shuts down. Yeah. So we had a loss at 21 weeks and it broke me. It really did. And I blamed myself for all sorts of things. And just no one could give me a reason. Now, a lot of my friends had had losses before. I had supported them with losses, but somehow I just didn't think it would be me.
Right.
So yeah, it was a lot of emotions going through my mind. We got pregnant again in 2020, not trying again. And I was like, okay, this is going to be different. I'm going to be more intentional with what I'm going to do with my body. Still didn't know what I was doing, but all I knew was my body, and I knew how to listen to my body. And that's exactly what I did. So I
Yeah.
went hardcore on my body. So I had my baby in August of 2020. She came early at 32 weeks, flying right out. And she's just been a joy ever since. So that was
Yeah.
my introduction to being a parent. I had
Yeah.
lots of successes, and I got pregnant again. What year are we in? 2023. I got pregnant again last year, early last year, and then we had another loss at 12 weeks. So I say this to say that I've had it all, but each experience was different. Each experience taught me something different and taught me more about my body. And now I'm just like, okay, body, what else do you have in store for me?
Right. And that's got to be so tricky. I mean, it must feel so isolating going through a loss, especially as your first pregnancy, and to then have gone through it again. But at the same time, do you feel like, I guess the first time that you had a loss, you weren't in the birth world, right? And now you are. Was this second loss as your third pregnancy something that felt a bit more relatable? Where did you feel like, you knew more about that this was more common, or did it feel just as, not fun, obviously, or as, emotional?
I think the second loss annoyed me more than the first, if I have to be honest. I haven't thought about it much, but I think for the first one, it was like, okay, it's normal. Like when they say 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 4 people, I think those statistics are actually really old. I really think at this point it's like 3 out of 4 women have losses. And I was like, okay, it happened. Let's move on. It was my approach. And that's kind of my approach to a lot of things. Is like, all right, it happened. Let's kind of figure it out. So the second time was just really annoying because then I was a birth worker. It's like I could have seen the signs. I know I couldn't have. But it was also that in my mind, I was like, I had fixed my body, right? I had a baby before, so I know kind of what to do. So
Right.
that caught me off guard, if I have to be honest. Because with my second pregnancy, because of my first loss, I was very into it. And I actually didn't celebrate my pregnancy till the very end. I was just kind of always on the fence. It was also right in COVID. So like I was also very paranoid that I
Yeah.
am going to die, right? It wasn't more so my baby's going to die. It's more like I am going to die. But with the third pregnancy, it just caught me off guard. It was like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, this shouldn't happen to me again. And, it's kind of like you're a birth worker, I'm a doula, but you shouldn't doula yourself, right? And this is why, because then I was like, oh, okay, let's move on. Let's figure this out. And now it's just universe, whatever you want to do, just do it. I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was you hit right on my other question, which was going to be, what is it like being pregnant afterwards? And I've done an episode on loss and infertility and things like that. And people can obviously go back and listen to those because, that's not specifically where our conversation is going today, but it's nice to hear it from somebody who's experienced it. And I think that people can definitely relate to that. And it makes total sense, right? Like you went through it once and then for it to happen again, it's like, well, what the heck? Like I already did my share of this. Why am I doing this again?
Yeah.
So that's got to be frustrating for sure. Now, when you did get pregnant with your daughter, the second pregnancy, what was it like? I mean, you said that you were like really not really celebrating, kind of on the fence. Like, since you weren't doing much celebration, were you very anxiety provoked? What was the pregnancy like? Like, were you having a lot of symptoms, or kind of were you excited when she was born because it was a little less anxiety provoking? What was it like?
So I actually remember when we found out I was pregnant. It was February 13th. I had just started a new role with a new company, and it was the day before Valentine's Day. And my husband and I don't really celebrate Valentine's Day. It's kind of like, yeah, it's a day, let's do dinner. So I remember on the 13th, I was like, let's go to this Mexican place and let's go have some margaritas to celebrate this new role that I'm getting into. And then something in my mind was like, girl, go get a pregnancy test before you go drink all the time. I just I didn't have any symptoms. We were not trying to get pregnant, but I don't know how to describe it. I just got a voice in my head. So we sat in the car and I remember going, I'll be right back. I need to do something real quick. So I think I was supposed to get my period the next day or in like a couple of days. So I took a test and then I went to my husband. I said, I think I'm pregnant. And he burst out laughing. He was like, wait a minute. So are you drinking or not?
Right. Oh my gosh.
I was like, no, this line is really there. Like, I am really pregnant. So we were really excited. We were so excited. We still went for dinner. He had all the drinks for me. Yeah, he was like, I am going to drink for you. And he got himself a pitcher. I really remember that picture and looking at me dead in the eye saying, congratulations to us. So that was fun. I enjoyed my dinner actually. So we were super excited. We didn't tell anyone for a really long time. And because it was COVID and we were all in a bubble, I would like that happened. And maybe like a week and a half later, COVID happened, right? So we were really in a bubble. So I didn't tell anyone at all. His parents lived like 30 minutes away. So I think we told them a couple of weeks later because we couldn't keep it to ourselves because they kept seeing me. But after that initial excitement, first trimester, I was sick a lot. And I just remember being very grateful for being sick, but also really annoyed because I was like, I had done a whole first trimester of being sick. So this better be different.
Right.
But I think I told, no, what happened was at 10 weeks, I told my cousin who lives in South Africa, and she was calling me every week, praying for me. Every week, every Friday morning, she would send me a voice note. And she was just like speaking all these affirmations to me. And that to me, I remember it being very special. And I remember being so annoyed, like, oh, it's another Friday again. She's going to send me these voice notes. But I think I was just embracing everything that this pregnancy was going to give to me. But I was also doing my due diligence of making sure that I was understanding what my body was telling me, right? So if I had a headache, I was like, why do I keep having these headaches? Like, why is my tummy feeling this kind of way? So I got very in tune with my body and listening to what my body was telling me. And then making sure that I told all the doctors what was going on with me. And that's for another day, but I fired 3 doctors till I got the doctor that I really felt was listening to me in my pregnancy.
Yeah. No, that's awesome to be able to like listen and trust your body. That's like amazing, right? And to be able to embrace everything that comes along with it and that sickness, it must be a whole nother level of feelings. I can only imagine, right? You know, I don't even know what word to use, but feelings, I guess.
It was all the feeling. And when I think I told my parents who were in London at that time, I think I told them at like 4.5 months, almost like after I had gone past that 21 weeks. And I was like, whew, okay, now I can start telling people. So I had started to tell friends and they wanted to plan a virtual baby shower for me. And I was like, nope, absolutely not. I don't need it. And they were like, oh, yes, we are going to have one. So they had actually planned one. My baby came before the baby shower. I barely took any pictures. I would take pictures because we're renovating the house, but I didn't feel like taking pictures. I am also not a picture person. But my sister-in-law was like, we're going to take maternity pictures. And she got me really excited for it. My baby came the day of my photo shoot, so I never took the pictures.
Oh my gosh. You're like, I finally was excited for them, and then they never happened.
Never happened. But I also never bought anything for the baby. Never. I didn't buy a single onesie. I just didn't buy anything. We were renovating my office to be her nursery, and we're like, it's just gonna be a crib. This baby's gonna sleep wherever we put her to sleep. Like I never did a nursery. I never bought it. I literally bought nothing. And my friend, who was like, you're crazy. I'm going to buy everything for you. And I was like, nothing should ever come to my house. I just felt like I didn't want to be let down. But I knew I was having a baby and I knew my baby was going to be viable, especially after 27 weeks. I was like, my baby can come any day now and she will live. I didn't even want to know what sex it was. I was just like, I'm just going to ride this out with no emotions, but just connect to my baby and connect to my body the way that I know how to. And my friend ordered a breast pump for me. She's like, send me your insurance and you need a breast pump. That's all she kept saying. She's like, just get a breast pump. That's like, fine, whatever.
Right.
So she got a breast pump, and she and another friend of mine in DC had like put things together, did my registry for me, got like my crib, got everything together for me. And they were like, we're ready. Just let us know when to ship it out. So I had support. And I don't think I would have made it to my pregnancy and had my baby without that kind of friends who were able to love me from afar, you know? And it still means something to me. And my husband's friends, there's one particular one who lives in New Jersey who he will call me all the time, just like, how is it going? How are you getting ready for the baby? Are you eating? I'm like, I want a beer and I want wine. And he's like, so have a glass of wine. Like, who's going to kill you? Like, and I was like, no, because the baby would die. He's like, smell the wine. Like, do what you need to do and move on. Right. And those kind of people were my angels that they were sent to me and I didn't know I needed. And I'm forever grateful for that tribe. And that's kind of also how I fell into being a birth worker. Because I was like, people are going through these things and they don't have anyone to rant, to cry, to laugh. And as much as I'm a very private person, I just opened a little window and I was like, the blessings were just coming in. Yeah. And for me, that's what kept us together for the pregnancy. My husband and I would like make these little jokes like, this baby better come because this baby's going to be loved and this baby's going to be so stubborn. And we'll speak all these things into the baby. And I will write all these affirmations and I'll say all these specific things of how I want my baby to be and how I want my birth to be. And it'll be things like, I want music. I want my mother-in-law in there. I want this baby to come out crying. If this baby isn't coming out crying, slap the baby's butt so the baby cries. Because in my head, if a baby cries, you're filling up the lungs and that is good.
Yes.
So yeah, it was an interesting pregnancy that I just still don't know how to describe, but I'm grateful I went through that experience. Let me put it that way.
I think that, all of that literally gives me chills, but I think that the biggest part of it is like, you had people that knew how to support you in the way that you needed support. And whether like you realized it or not, right? Like you're saying, a bit more of a private person, you really wanted to stay kind of like monotoned throughout the whole thing. You didn't want to get your hopes up. And like, your friends in your tribe, like they see that, but they also want you to be set. Like they know that you're going to have this baby. They want you to be prepared. So like being able to like have everything ready to send to you when you're ready, like preparing for you for when you're ready for it and not stepping over your requests of waiting and sending you stuff prior to, right? Like there's something to be noted about like the true friendship and the true like trust that you must have with each other for them to be able to support you, but still being able to support you in a way that felt comfortable to you. And like, that's so amazing. Like I have chills, like I can't even imagine.
They were great. I still cannot believe the amount of support and love that we got. And I just pray that everyone still finds that. Like you don't have to suffer alone. And there were times when I will find out that someone passed away from COVID or something tragic happened. Like I'll be watching TV and I'll just like burst out crying. And I realized I was holding on to old grief. And my friend will be like, I have some bad news to tell you, but no, this is not going to affect you. And, my friend sent me her nurse who was having childbirth classes for free in Virginia. She's like, sign on to it. It's on Zoom. I was like, I don't need a childbirth class. Like, I'm going to have a C-section anyway, because I was told I was having a C-section and I don't need to do that. She was like, here's the information. And if you want to sign on, sign on. But she was really grateful for my pregnancy. So I had people sending me resources and they were like, you don't have to do it, but I think you should. And this is it. And make your own decision. And it was great because we were able to also get things done our way. And once again, I'm so grateful for COVID because it kept us in a bubble. So even with my husband, it was kind of like we spent our time together at home and it was kind of like seeing my baby bump and taking pictures. I think at 28 weeks, I started to take weekly pictures, but I hated them. So I stopped. I was like a whale, but now that I'm looking back, I'm like, we did the best that we could under the circumstances.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Now, you said that she came at 32 weeks, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know you told me a little bit in like the notes when we were chatting too, but like tell everybody what happened. Like the story of how she was born in like what 2.5 hours. She just decided to make her appearance from the hospital
Yep.
to being alive. I mean, yeah.
Prima.
So you were told that you were going to have a C-section from earlier in your pregnancy.
Yes. So a couple of years before, I had a myomectomy, and a myomectomy is when they remove fibroids. And it's pretty much the exact same procedure as a C-section. It's you take out fibroids and you take out a baby, but it's pretty much the same surgery. So after I had done that, they told me I was going to have a C-section. I was never told I could have a VBAC, which is to attempt to have a vaginal birth after a C-section. So in my entire mind, I was like, okay, fine. Like I also don't like pain. So I'm like, I don't have to be in pain till after. Cool, no problem.
Right.
So my baby, a couple of weeks before that, I had lost my mucus plug. I went to the hospital and I was like, I lost my mucus plug, freaking out. And they're like, yeah, no, you didn't. You're fine. And I was like, okay, I know what I saw, but sure, whatever. And I just was I'm 100% sure that I was pre-border and I was on the border of preeclampsia. And I'll tell you why. It's because I was having headache, but I have a history of migraines. It's just been what it is. And I was huge. I was swollen. I was like a whale. And I'm not the biggest person. So I just kept saying, and everyone kept saying, my baby's going to be big. My baby's going to be big. My husband was 10 pounds and he's 6'2" and a big guy. So they see us together. They're like, oh, yes, you're having a big baby. But I just also felt like the doctors were not listening to me. Like every time I said something, they would be like, no, it's because of your history. You're fine. And then I had to switch doctors totally. And I ended up getting this really, really lovely lady over at UMass. And she listened to me. And she was like, tell me more. Tell me what you're feeling.
Oh.
So it was a breath of fresh air. I remember I called my friend and I was like, I found somebody who hears me. She was like, you're so dramatic. Why do you keep switching all these doctors? You will be fine. I was like, no, I will not. So I saw this doctor on a Thursday and I went in because I wasn't feeling good. I don't know how to explain it. I just felt off. I never actually felt my baby kick for my entire pregnancy. My placenta was in the front and I just never felt baby kicks. I felt like flutters, not even, it felt like that was it, just like, but I never felt the baby kick. And she was worried about it. So she told me on that Thursday that I should come twice a week moving forward, on a Monday and a Thursday. So on Monday, I would do a non-stress test. And then on Thursdays, I'll do an ultrasound to watch how the baby's growing. Because guess what? My baby was actually small. She was like, I'm looking at your ultrasound, your baby looks tiny. Your baby looks under 4 pounds, and that's not normal. And I was like, not normal. Like, you don't tell a pregnant person not normal, because especially you don't tell me, because I am going to take that information somewhere else.
And run with it. Right.
I was running, listen, the whole sprint. So I said, okay, that was Thursday. And I said, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for acknowledging everything you're telling me.
Right.
I'll see you Monday. My baby came on Sunday. So Sunday, we, just like every household in COVID, made this elaborate breakfast, right? We had all this, right. And I made this lovely lunch. I don't even remember what it was now, but I just remember not feeling good. I remember like I was cramping and I remember I was leaking. So I was like, I've changed my underwear, but it's wet. Did I pee? Like, I didn't know what was going on, but it wasn't like a lot of fluids. It just was damp, kind of like
right. Uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of like I peed. Like it just, and I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be like, why is my underwear like damp? So I told my husband, he was like, TMI, but I don't know what that means. And then I started to feel achy. Like I was just tired. So we went through our brunch and then he said, do you want to call the hospital? Because at this point I was going to the hospital every week for something. And I was like, no, it's fine. I just need to lie down and get ready for this photo shoot because his sister was like, you need to go. So I text his sister and a friend of mine who was helping me get ready. And I was like, guys, I don't feel good. I'm going to lay down. So we might need to postpone this shoot. And his sister was like, no, we are not. Because she thought I was trying to get
Trying
out
to
of
get
it.
out of it.
I really don't feel good. And she's like, absolutely not. Go take a shower and get ready. So I called the hospital and they said, lay down, drink some Gatorade and lay down. And I said, cool. So I laid down. This was probably at like 12 something. And then apparently I fell asleep because my husband woke me up and goes, you're moaning in your sleep. Are you okay? And I said, no, my tummy really hurts. I am cramping and I don't know why. And he said, do you want to go to the hospital? And I said, I called them and they told me I am fine, so I should lay back. So I lay back down and then I felt like a sharp pain. I go, nope, let's go now. So we were getting ready to go. He was in the middle of like renovating. We're doing construction and he was doing it himself. So he's like draped in like white plaster. He's like, I need to go take a shower. I'm like, okay. He grabs a dress for me. And I remember saying, I don't want to wear this dress because I wore it last week to the hospital. Get me a new dress.
Oh my gosh. You're starting to run out of clothes.
I just wore the exact same outfit a week ago. Like, listen, I still need to look good.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was my thinking then. And I lived 5 minutes away from the hospital, right? So it was really quick. So I get to the hospital and everybody's like, do you need a wheelchair? Because at this point I'm in pain. Like I'm in labor, but I didn't know I was in labor. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And on the way, I didn't have a hospital bag, right? Because I didn't buy anything. And all I had was my phone, my iPad, and the charger. That's it. Priorities. And then
for anyone opposite of what like typical pregnant mamas walking into the hospital, walking with like suitcases nowadays.
No,
and here you are, your iPad, your phone, and a charger.
That's it. That's all I had. I had my iPad because I was like, I still have work to do. But for anyone who knows me, they know I play Spider Solitaire. Like that's my way to calm me. It's Spider Solitaire, and I played on my iPad. That's all I walked in. And I remember a doctor seeing me at registration and going, are you in labor? Are you okay? And I'm like, I'm not in labor. And I burst out crying. I got to the hospital at like 1:03. I went to triage. They tested me and they were like, your water broke. So all that leaking was your water. And it was just person after person coming in. NICU came in. Everybody was just coming in to say, you're going to have your baby by tonight, maybe tomorrow morning. And I was like, is my baby going to make it? They said yes. I was like, I don't care what happens then. So we got into a room at like right before 2:00. I was like in triage for like less than 30 minutes. That never happens. And then I told my husband, call your mom and tell your mom to come. And he was like, I'll call her later. I said, no, call your mom now. Since mom is a nurse and she told me she wanted to be part of the experience. And I was like, absolutely, I want your mom in the room. Like, it's COVID. I don't care how she needs to sneak in, but she's coming. And his mom did come. She came to the room. And as soon as she came in, my water broke. Like, I'm talking all Hail Mary, like, gush of water. And within 5 minutes, I was like, oh, like, my water broke. They saw a cord coming out. And I was like, white, like, what was it, cold white? And it was like rushed, prepped in the OR. She came at 3:58. So I got to the hospital at like 1:03. She came at 3:58. And I only know it's 1:03 because I had sent a text message to my friend to ask her when her baby came because her baby was a preemie and her baby came at 33 weeks and some days. I was like, okay, so I know your baby's 33. So I am 32 on the day. So my baby's going to make it. That's all I needed to know.
Yeah.
And she came flying out. She was fine. She was breathing on her own. She was this little tiny, tiny, tiny nugget. And I was just so glad that she was here.
Oh my gosh. That must have been wild to be, oh, they're going to come today. Okay. Like you're feeling okay. You're manifesting like she's going to be good. She's going to stay alive. Like we're good. And then all of a sudden we're in the OR and we have a baby. Like talk about so fast. I'm glad that you were prepared to have a C-section, right? Because then at least like the rushed aspect of it, I'm sure was still anxiety provoking, but at least you were prepared for that to happen. Unlike some people who, have vaginal deliveries or expecting to have that and then end up with an emergency C, that must have felt a little bit reassuring in a time that wasn't very, planned for.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't think I had a choice because she was also breached, right? So she was
Oh,
breached
okay.
when my water broke. Apparently, they saw a cord. So she was really low because my body had also dropped. Like you could tell my tummy had dropped a couple of days before. So I think even if I was not planning to have a C-section, that was my only option at that point.
At
It
that
was
point.
literally like code white. Everybody just take this girl straight away. And for me, that was the best situation for me. Like my priorities was to have a baby, was to celebrate my birth. I didn't want anyone crying except me. And I did all the crying for people. But it was a mixture of like, I need my husband right there next to me. And I need my mother-in-law to be very close by. Like those were my priorities. I didn't care
Yeah,
about anything else. And now as a doula, I tell my clients, I don't really do birth plans. It's not my jam. I'm kind of like, let's get a priority document. Like, tell me what is your priority and
that's
why.
great.
And that's kind of how I operate now, just because birth is unpredictable. So
Yeah.
that was for me the best case scenario. And I still look back at my birth story and people are like, I'm so sorry that you went through that. I'm like, oh no, please don't be sorry. Like that was what I needed at that time.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Now, she was born and she was tiny, like you had been saying, right? Now, what did she weigh when she was coming out? And then I know she spent some time in the NICU. What was that like? And what were they doing? And what was that like for you? Because you went home without a baby, right?
Yeah. She was 3 pounds 11, or she 3 pounds 9. Now I don't even remember the difference, but she was tiny, itsy bitsy. She went straight to the NICU from the OR. My husband went with her to the NICU, and I was like, just go see how she's doing, and I'll be fine. Um, she came so early that we didn't have a name for her. We didn't have a
Oh,
name for 5 days. Like we had no name. There wasn't even like an option. Like I really was like, they were like, oh, what's her name? I was like, we don't know.
did you know? No, you said you were waiting to find out what she was. Did you know what she was, a girl, or did you find out when you gave birth?
I cheated. I found out. So they gave me an envelope and told us to look when we are ready. And I cheated and I looked, but I told my husband that I didn't.
Oh my gosh, I cannot. So he thought that you both found out at the birth and you knew?
I told him, I think he ended up looking maybe a week or two before, but I just kept saying, I feel like I'm having a girl. I know I am having a girl. And he's like, how do you know? I said, I know what I'm having, but I had cheated. I looked at the envelope. Sorry, Kojo.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so we knew we were having a girl. We knew her middle name. Her middle name is Dede, and she was named after my husband's mother. So she has two middle names, Dede and Nyakwa. Nyakwa is my mother's middle name. So she was named after both parents, but we wanted her to have her own name. And Ghanaians usually would name after somebody and have the whole name. And I was like, no, my name is complicated. But I was also named after my grandmother. So we wanted her own name, and we had no name. 5 days, no name. So she was in the NICU. NICU, honestly speaking, I cannot complain. And I think it was because I was just so grateful she was here.
Yeah,
And she was in the NICU. She was breathing on her own. She didn't need a breathing tube.
that's
And
awesome.
all the reports I was getting was like, she's so positive. She's a fighter, and she's doing really well. I had the NICU camera, so I could monitor from her on my iPad. Right, my iPad became useful then. I was in the hospital for 5 days. I was supposed to be there for 3 days, but also we didn't have a name, so they couldn't do a birth certificate. They were like, we'll just keep you an extra day.
There you go. We don't have a name. We still don't have a name.
Still don't have a name. I was there for 5 days, and I could go see her. So I started walking that night. I didn't see her for more than 24 hours after she was born, and I'll tell you why. I got to the hospital, everything escalated so fast that I couldn't do a COVID test before I did my surgery. So, in order to go to the NICU, I needed to be cleared and have a negative COVID result. And because they couldn't do a test before, I mean, you've touched my blood and everything. Like, if I had COVID, guys, by now, let's move
People
on.
would have known, right?
But I had to do my COVID test after I was in the recovery room. And back then, you couldn't do like our COVID test took like 24 hours to come. And my husband also needed to have a cleared COVID test. So for 24 hours, I had her on a Sunday at 3:58. I didn't see her till like almost midnight on Monday morning. because I couldn't get my test results. So the whole time I was relying on the camera, and I was just like taking that time to like heal. I walked to the NICU and they told me I couldn't see her. And I was like, okay, cool. She's fine. Just tell me she's fine. And they were like, she's fine. They showed me everything. So I was always calling for information.
Yeah.
So those 24 hours was hard, but it wasn't hard because I couldn't see my daughter. It was hard because everybody kept calling to ask me, have you seen her? Right? How is she doing? Have you seen her? Like all that. What do you mean by you haven't seen her? Like all that information, I didn't need that.
No.
But I live 5 minutes from the hospital. So NICU was like, I was there breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like I was just always there. It wasn't that bad. And I just knew she was getting really good care. So she was in NICU for 45 days. After maybe like 35 days, I was like losing it. I was like, bring my baby home. Like just, she's fine. They just needed her to gain weight. She wasn't eating according to their schedule because she needed to take a particular amount in 30 minutes. My child till today takes 2 hours to have breakfast. Like that's just who she eats. She's a slow eater. She's lazy. Like she will play instead of eat. And that's just who she is, right? So that was my only frustration with her being in the NICU, was that I just needed her to come home. Like I was tired of the back and forth, but I was also so grateful that I could heal from my C-section without having a crying baby and sleepless nights at home. And that's kind of how I took it. So I called it free daycare. I was like, she's having free daycare and in the hospital, and I am home healing.
It's honestly like, so many people could have taken your situation, and if they went through it, have been really upset by it all, right? Like focusing on the negatives and having a really hard time getting through it. And in the perception of it all that you take and that you took of like trying to see the positives of it, like we know she's gonna live, like as long as she's okay, even though I don't see her, she's breathing, you know, like a free daycare, like these ways that you were able to look at the situation and the perspective that you took, like I feel like I give you all the props for, because I'm sure that it would have been so easy to quickly spiral into like the depths, right? But to be able to have the oomph and like the courage to see it from a positive point of view, I feel like that had to have been life-changing, because you know, if you did take it from the other side of it and look at it in a negative lens, I'm sure that it would have been even more complicated and so much harder emotionally, physically.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. I think also just because I had a loss before, I was like, she's here. And I had a friend whose baby was in the NICU a year before me. And I remember her just being really sad and really depressed. And like, I remember the day she went home, she cried because she didn't have her baby. And in my mind, I was like, I don't want that to be me, because I know how hard it was for her. And I don't want to take that approach, because if I go down that path on day one, that's it. Like I'm just going to keep going. And at this point, I need to be strong for my baby. I need to be strong for my husband. Like it's just us. I didn't have any other support. It was me, him, my mother-in-law, and his family. Like my family were not around. And I just had to lean onto them, and I had to be strong for them. But also, you get that mama bear feel, like you have to put up this strong face and this strong look. And I was like, I don't have time for that. Like, I'm not going to pretend to be happy if I'm not happy. That's too much energy that I don't have. So if I'm happy, I'm happy. And if I'm not, and I close my door, that's what it is. But I had learned from my friend, and I remember her just being really, really sad that her baby wasn't home. And I was like, I'm going to just take advantage of this and make the best out of it. Till I couldn't, around that 35 day, when I was like literally screaming in the hospital, bring my baby home.
So what was it like when you got to finally bring her home? Now you had the opportunity to heal from the C-section. You knew that she was doing so much better. You had your baby at home. Did you finally have the stuff that got shipped to you?
Yes. Yes. So I think one of the weeks, my husband drove to DC. One of his really good friends also was getting married in DC, and he was in the bridal party. So he actually went to DC, and he came back with a trunk full of things. I'm talking people, my same friend who had organized my registry started to tell people the baby came early, so we're canceling the baby shower. and people started to ship things directly to me. Like I'm talking every day I open my door, it's something else. I'm gonna try not to cry. My friend in DC, when I got home on day 5, she had bought me NICU diapers. She had bought me NICU clothes. She was like, your baby isn't going to fit into any of the clothes I have yet. So I'm buying you clothes. Like she didn't ask me. She just sent stuff. And I was like, what are preemie diapers? Like, don't they start from 1? And she was like, this is exactly why I'm sending it to you. And so I got home and things were done. Like things were at my door. Her room wasn't ready because we're still like in the middle of construction.
Right.
But my mother-in-law had also secretly started buying stuff. So like her grandparents were like ready for her. But I had stuff. My friend sent me a crib that she had used for her baby, and it was like, here. I didn't have like car seat was sent to me. I didn't have to deal with any of that. And I am forever grateful for that tribe who were able to like get together in a short amount of time. Like, I didn't buy anything except like breast milk bags because I needed them and I had a lot. But people just showed up. They were sending us food. And that is when I realized that I had a village that I didn't know I had because I'm not one to ask for help at all.
Right.
I'm always the one asking people for help. And it was like word got out and it was like, ooh.
It's the karma, right? Like you're constantly out there helping people and everyone wants to give that in return. And if you're not somebody that normally asks for it, people are like, oh no, we're doing it. And that's amazing. Oh, that melts my heart.
I didn't think that would happen to me. I really didn't.
Oh, now typically I wrap up these conversations and I feel like it kind of adds us to this whole part of it. But, if there was a piece of advice that you could give a new parent and like a product recommendation or something that you would suggest that they need, what would you tell them? Like, what is your advice? What is your product or thing?
Does it have to be a thing? Can it be
It doesn't have
big?
to be a thing. It can be a service. I mean, it sounds like you've got a village. It sounds like a village is what everyone needs, but
Yes. Right. I would say babies don't need much. Babies do not need much. The whole idea of getting a beautiful nursery, all of that stuff is all stuff for Instagram and social media, and it's stuff that people want you to have.
Yeah.
But they do not need much. They need to have a parent who's well cared for, and they need to feel love and happiness at home. And for that to happen, the parents need peace of mind. So the couple of things on my list are 1, placenta encapsulation. Take your placenta home. I don't care if you want to eat it, chew it, bury it, take it home. And it's because it's a way of having closure. Like when I had my baby, I didn't even know what a placenta was. Like I was that useless.
Right.
And it's you can have capsules, and those are your postpartum vitamins. You're able to nourish yourself. But what I've also found with a lot of my clients is their closure. Some people bury it and they have a plant, and it's like living proof that there's their bond with their baby. Some people have a keepsake. It reminds them of their pregnancy. And it's just something to have with you. I also think postpartum doulas are like it. Like a lot of times we put so much thought into daycare and into nanny sharing, but the first couple of days home is rough. Like when my baby came home, I was like, what now? But I also cheated, right? She was on a schedule from the NICU. So I just continued that schedule. So I was like, I cheated my way into the transition to be a parent. But the first couple of days are rough, and having somebody who's an expert and knows how to take care of babies and also take care of the parents and hold them, I think it's needed. And it's something that I think everyone needs to look into, is to get a postpartum doula. I didn't have one. I didn't know they existed. I am not a postpartum doula, but I feel like it's so needed into this world. And get a breast pump. Like,
yes,
that's all I had. Even if you think you're not going to feed your baby with breast milk, get a breast pump. Your insurance is going to cover it for free. So do your research and get a breast pump and thank me later. Because I didn't breastfeed my baby, but I exclusively pumped. So the fact that she was in the NICU and I could still give her milk by pumping at home was the best thing I could have given to her.
Yeah.
And even if you decide to do formula, and not all babies tolerate formula. My baby didn't tolerate formula. So I had to find other ways to get her milk. And that's why I decided to exclusively pump. But if your baby doesn't like formula and you don't want to breastfeed, you can get a breast pump, but it's not going to cost you anything to get a breast pump.
Right. Exactly. It's a good safety net. Like if you use it, great. And if you don't, it's not like it's money going to waste because your insurance covers it. So, it's great. No, I love that. And I think it's so true that like, it doesn't need to be stuff. Sometimes it's the services, right? And it's the support. And I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said all they really need is a family and support that loves them and is well taken care of themselves, not just taking care of baby.
Yes, because the parents are reborn. I know a lot of people think the partners and the fathers and are not the ones pregnant, but they also go through something. Like they also are pregnant, not physically. I think maybe some of them gain weight, but it's they mentally and emotionally go through something. They also need to be held and shown some love. And I don't think my husband would have been a great of a father and husband to me if he hadn't gotten the love and support from other people. So
yeah,
it's something they need to also think about their partner and find services and provides for them.
Yeah, no, that's so true and so amazing. I mean, they're seeing you go through this experience and they're seeing all of it from a third party perspective, which can be great in some cases, but also a lot of anxiety provoking moments too. So I love that. Thank you so much for coming and joining me and for telling us all your story. I know that there's a lot to it and it could be probably a lot to talk about sometimes, but I think that it's amazing that you're willing to share it. And we will have her back. So everybody take a listen and keep your eyes peeled because I'm sure we will have another episode coming up soon with some more like professional topics, tips and tricks and all the things. So thank you and we'll see you back soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Postpartum Plan podcast. I hope that today's episode brought you support, relatability, and valuable insight. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review and share with any of your prenatal and postpartum friends and family. Your feedback helps us reach more parents seeking support. And if you're looking for additional resources, please feel free to connect via Instagram at Serene Moments Doula for constant information, tips, and tricks, or check out my website, www.serenemomentsdoula.com. See you next week.